coming out. My name is Janelle. I'm the librarian here at the Atala County Library. I know it's going to be a stormy, blustery day, so thank you for taking the time to come out today, and we really appreciate Mrs. Evans being here. So I wanted to introduce Ann Breedlove. She's our genealogy librarian. Most of you have met her and worked with her. She's a gem in this library, in this community, and we appreciate her. And then we also have Christina Harkins, who's our assistant back here, and you'll often see her up in the computer lab. So I'm going to turn it over to Miss Ann and let her introduce Miss Evans and get going. If you would like anything to drink, we do have some water and some refreshers just there in the back if you'd like something to drink. Alrighty?
I mean, I like the back. Right.
You want some water, Nick?
Oh, I'm good. Would you like some?
Yes, go ahead.
Good.
I'm going to get one.
Hey, Brown.
How are you?
I'm good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hey, Margie. Let's see my name.
The first time I met Dorla was at our Guyton family reunion in 2022.
What you want my
Yes.
dress?
And I have fallen and all beat up. And I just didn't think I was going to get to Guyton. And I remember when I got out of the car, I had to hold on to the brick wall.
I think that's right.
To get to Jason's southern table. And I got in there, got sat down, and I thought,
I should have my son. I
it
don't need
was and
Do I need to put it down?
out of the kindness of his heart, he asked me that I want him to fix me a plate just like he was his mom. And he did. And that, God takes care of him when you don't know what you're doing. But Dorla
I
is
should have worn my hearing
just a
aids in
genius.
case would you be my
And she
hearing
has,
aid?
yes, you are. She has done a great job. And I know this is going to be so interesting. You know, it was only
I was trying to sit on the back row.
22 that we felt like we reunited.
Isn't this interesting?
The white family with the black family of Guytons. Our ancestor, my ancestor was Joseph Guyton, who was a brother of their Aaron Whitaker Guyton. And so Nick Starr is a big part of this because I met him about 27 years ago. And I had been sick and I came back and I had a message on my machine saying, "This is Nick Starr." He just wanted to know, was I still here? Because it's been 5 years, you know. But he came and it was just like we didn't miss a beat. I mean, it was just like when he was here before. And he had found out some things about his, your great-great-grandfather. Okay. And Patsy Gibson, right, was your ancestor. I really believe that we found her. We have mortality schedules for 1850, 60, and 70. And I believe that the Patsy that I found was probably his. Because she doesn't show up ever again, you know, in the census with it. And so that was a wonderful thing. Yeah. Come on in. How are
So
you?
I know that's Aaron Whitaker.
Sorry, I'm
We
late.
have a seat for you up here.
Okay.
Hey,
It's
girl.
her fault.
Hey.
Come on in.
Good to see you back there. You finally.
Come on in.
Good seeing you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
Hey,
nice.
I need to whip myself with the
All
stick.
right, you don't have to get up. How are you?
But I'm glad I came up here. So I'm gonna write down.
So I'm gonna give Dorla and Nick just carte blanche.
So who
They can just do,
excuse me?
you know, talk about how
Dorla
their
Evans.
just started and all
So
that.
who that
So
is?
I really think y'all will be glad to
I know
hear.
that's Aaron Whitaker.
Well, we hope so.
Oh, I
That's
know
who.
something. So we'll let you get started then.
Okay,
Nick-
great.
Nick
Well, thank
Brown?
you so much for coming out today.
Okay.
I am Dorla Evans. I'm a retired professor of business from the University of Alabama in Huntsville. So what I did is I basically enjoyed doing research as a professor, but I was tired of doing business professor type research. So I was really interested in genealogy, so I've applied some of the skills and my attention to detail to genealogy. Nick, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm just happy to be here.
Me too.
She was gracious enough to invite me when really Dr. Dorla Evans
This
and
wouldn't be a book
Ann,
without Nick.
they got together. Between the two of them, they were very important in my family, finding out how we connected and where we connected. So she's trying to act like I did. I was lucky enough. God led me to the right place to meet Ann 27 years ago, and when we met, we didn't know we were related. I came in. My mother had a little sheet of paper that said Wash Guyton, Guyton. And so I came in looking for somebody named Wash Guyton. And she laughed at me and said, well, how do you spell it? And I spelled my way, and she spelled it Guyton. And so she laughed and said, oh, for a minute there, I thought we might be cousins. and we laughed it off. And I might have spent the afternoon here, very disappointed. I couldn't find I didn't know what I was looking for. I had all the wrong names to begin with. So I was kind of disappointed. And her, with her kind heart, said, well, I understand. We're looking for a family member as well. And she proceeded to tell me about A.W. Guyton. And I had never heard of him. So I left here, went to the Chancellery office, somewhere local, and I found a little piece of information. And I'm like, wait a minute now, maybe. And it kind of grew a little bit closer. And my cousin Ricky, who I know he's going to pop up here, but his sister is here. But I found some information and ended up we were cousins for real. So it was a blessing. It was truly a blessing.
And it was a very miraculous type thing, I would say, because you could see God in it from the start. I mean, what would be the chances he'd come back this much later and I'd still be here? Because I didn't expect I would. But, my grandmother knew who A.W. was. And so I could give him his name. And then he, at that time, you thought Artie Rainey was your ancestor. And he knew her name, and I didn't. So we put it together. And then he got a copy of the will where Whit left Artie and the children the house and some land and some farm implements. And so, it just opened up a whole new understanding, because before that, we just didn't really know very much.
Yeah, before that, my family only knew him, we only knew him as, they call him the old white man. Come around, drop off a ham. He always brought us food. That's what they called him. And I was looking for Wash, white, but never thought about wit. That just never crossed my mind. So, and here we are.
Here we are. So we put together a little agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about how the book got originated and a little more of the story behind that. We'll talk a little bit about Aaron Whitaker and some of his life and specifics. And then we'll go in and talk about his partners and his children. And then an important event occurred over a period of time that affected the writing of the book, and of course the people themselves, was the Great Migration of African Americans up into the urban north, and that causes some problems trying to follow people. We'll talk about the types of information that is in the book, and we'll answer any of your questions. So, but we're a small enough group, we can be informal here. We don't have to, be real strict about things. So I'll let Nick start off. We heard a little bit about how you met Ann.
Okay. So I'll pick it up. Once I met Ann, and as she said, I found the will that Whit Guyton left for Art Rainey's 7 children, the land, all his worldly belongings, and that kind of thing. I brought it back to my family. My mother is the one I see, Viola Boyd, was the one that really started it for me. I was in the military, retired, just retired, and I was telling my cousin Jonelle that my mom figured I had nothing else to do. So she summoned me to Chicago, and she constructed this big argument about who Artie Rainey was. She kept calling Artie Rainey Aunt Artie. I'm like, Mom, that's not your aunt. She's not connected. You see these lines? They don't connect to anybody. She can't be your aunt. So that was the argument, and then she know how stubborn I am. I'm almost as stubborn as she is. And she told me, well, if you know so much, then go down to Kosciusko and you find out. And to call her bluff, I came, not knowing anything. And I think when I got here, was it your second week, Ann? Ann had just started working here?
Well, it was close to the
Yeah.
beginning, and at that time I had to work the front desk and just come in here if we had genealogy patrons come in.
Right.
But as soon as I realized, I knew who he's talking about. You know, that's what made it exciting
Yes.
because I knew who
Yes.
he was talking about, and he was able to give me information too.
Right.
And
And all my family had was stories. And I don't even know if you can understand to not even know the name and where you started, to know nothing how you connect or any of that. Even Grandpa Pink, we knew we had a grandfather who was called Pink. And they called him Paul Pink, and he was light, bright, looked like he was white. That's all we knew about him. And he had his own land, wore a shirt, white shirt every day to work. Didn't know nothing about his father or anything else. So to come here and get that information and be able to take it back to my family, I thought was like Christmas, the greatest thing that could happen. Well, it ended up causing a little friction in the family because a will with land, and now people are, well, whose land, whose land? And so that caused a lot of, it upended a lot of the, we went from having maybe 150 to 200 people at a family reunion. And then after that particular reunion, and the picture of it is in the book, that last reunion, that it was big, it went down to about maybe 25 to 30. So the family just broke apart, which broke my heart and my mother's heart, because that's not what we were doing. We were doing it to discover family. And so I stopped. I didn't do any more of the work. I didn't want nothing else to do with it. And then maybe 15 to 20 years later, I had a grandson. And I thought about me not knowing where I came from when I was younger. And it just, okay, let me try this again. And the first person I called was Ann. She happened to be still there. And she was. And because she was here, I came back and we started all over again. Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to. What year was that you first?
The first time I came, it was 27 years ago, so it was like 90. I had just retired from the military. I retired in 95, so it was like 97, 98.
yeah, I came here in '97.
Yeah, that's when I came down. And the reunion, the big reunion that my mother, she got everybody to come back here to the reunion. California, Chicago, everybody came back here to celebrate because my mother was going to give us exciting news. Because nobody knew how we were connected, you know, what the story was. So when she invited everybody down here, we had a great reunion to start off with, but then it just all kind of fell apart, and it just never was the same after that. So when I came back the second time and started again, I did get in touch with Ann. We came back.
God bless you. That's okay.
And Ann and I, we reconnected, and she started sharing more information, stuff that she had found since then. And one of the treasures she found was this book here. She shared this book with me, and I became very excited because up until that point, if you're looking for anything to do with Whit Guyton, you might find a sentence or a mention in some small book, or our own family members would get together, different branches would get together, and they would write little tablets with about maybe 20 or 30 pages about their branch of the family. But we had never gotten together to do the work. And that was a problem because we never talked. So we never knew. And even in trying to talk to my elders then, they didn't want to talk about it because there's some things that they said was better kept in the dark. And so it was a very hard thing to do. So the very first book I saw that really talked about us was this book. I had heard stories about, and I call them myths, but now I've come to find out it's true. There's a family Bible that I saw a picture of it now. Joseph had it redone.
Oh,
know if you knew
wow,
that.
that's
He
wonderful.
had it
No.
redone. And then there was a book about the Guytons written by Bobo
Oh, my God.
McCall
Oh, thank you.
Guyton. A book was written by him that had all the family in it. And Sam Guyton invited me to his house, and we're going through the book, and I'm all excited because I'm finally going to read something about Whit. And then it got to his name, and it said no further information. So that was another, it's like I kept getting these stabs in the heart. But finding this book was like, and it had an actual section about Whit Guyton. So that really got me excited about it. From that, we ended up finding where Grandpa Pink was actually buried here in Mallet Cemetery. So after we found that, my cousin Ricky and I, we went through the process of getting him a tombstone because he was buried under 2 rocks. Him and his wife, that's all they could afford, so they buried him under 2 rocks right in front of the slave cemetery. And me and Dorla went out to look at that today. So we bought the headstone, but while I was here, Ann shared with me again, and she's all, you notice that angel keep coming in. Ann shared with me, well, there's going to be a Guyton reunion. And I said, a Guyton reunion? Nobody told me about no Guyton. I'm thinking it was us. I didn't know it was going to be these folks here. So I'm like, I'm sending in my money. And so Ann gave me the address, told me where to send the money. I sent my money, and I'm going. And then I get this letter back that it was canceled. And there was a discrepancy there, but all I knew that it was canceled. And so I come back to see my elders again to check in on them. And when I come to see my family, Miss Ann is my family, so I come see Ann. So I come down to see Ann, and Ann asked me, are you still going to the reunion? And I'm looking at her. They told me the reunion was canceled. No, it's still going on. Well, I'll check for you. And she told me it was still going on. Then I went into the Eddie Murphy. Oh, they trying to get rid of me? I'm going to this. Now I'm going to the reunion. And nothing's going to stop me. So I made up my mind to go anyway. And later on, I find out, and it shows you how, I don't know if you believe in God, Buddha, the Genesis, PlayStation. I don't care who you believe in, but there was a greater power that had a hand on this. Because it would have been easy for me to just stay at home and not come. I felt disrespected. I didn't want nothing to do with it. But something pushed me to come anyway. And when I came, I found out that in 2019, the reunion was canceled. And my cousin Sam Guyton, was sending me some more information about the family that was connected to that reunion. So instead of just sending me the attachment, he sent me the whole email. And all I read was, it was canceled. So I was wrong. I had no idea that they were still looking for me. And so when I walk in, I'm walking in, ready to fight. And the first thing I saw was this big smile and everybody with the open arms and welcome me. So it's just, that was the start of this. And the added blessing was Dr. Evans was there. My cousin was there who wrote this book, and I had just found out about her. And all I did was say, wow, I thanked her for giving us that little section, and she made the mistake of saying, well, if I had more information, I would have put more. She have told me. And when she said that, I had stacks of books, I had all the information, and I gave it to her. And then I called all my other cousins, Rita, Ricky, Cheney, and I'm just talking about you, cuz. Hey. And we all gave her the information, and she was gracious enough. In 2 years' time, she researched everything we gave her, Because once again, we had stories about the family that was passed down. And what she did with all of our separate information, she researched everything and made sure she was able to document it. And that meant everything. So, she thanks me, but I really thank her. Because she didn't have to include us. But then she took that extra step and then did a whole book. That's amazing. So that's how we came into the party.
Well, I independently was writing the Guyton book because my maternal grandmother is a Guyton. And the same family that Nick came from was in South Carolina, and they moved through Georgia and Alabama. Mine stopped in western Alabama, and some went across to Mississippi and northern Mississippi, Kosciusko. Some went on to Texas. And in fact, some of them Texas went on to Arizona. And one of the stories in the back, along with the interesting story about Whit Guyton and his family, is the first Lady of Arizona was a Guyton from the same family. So I wrote this primarily for my family. It's a family tree more focused on the people that I know or, are related to us. But in doing so, I found there were just so many interesting stories that I put, 5, 8 different stories in the back. And David Guyton from England, he considers himself the expert on Guytons worldwide. He collects information on Guytons throughout the world. I don't know what he does with it. I'd love to have it online somewhere. But he told me about the story about Aaron Whitaker. And so I thought that was fascinating, and I found a PhD dissertation was written about Aaron and Artie, and so that was some independent research, and so put that in there. And then David also told me, I sent him a copy of the book whenever it was done for his generosity, and he told me that there was going to be a reunion. Of course, I've never met these people, but I thought, well, I might learn something, and so I was interested, and I got an invitation, and I came, and I said, gosh, I sure hope the African American family comes, because I don't know anything. I don't know if this is a joint group. I don't know anything, but I sure hope that happens. And so Jonelle and I are there, and it's a small local group, and I'm like, okay. No Aaron Whitaker. But, it's nice, and we're just in the intro, just listening to welcome everybody speech, and then in comes Nick. He was all dressed in a suit with the princess, his wife, and comes on up and gets the floor and introduces himself, and it was a fantastic reunion.
And Ricky.
And Ricky came, yes.